This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast, brought to you by Hoxo Media. And I cannot contain my excitement today as I welcome to our channels the most wonderful and very influential name within recruitment. This is DeeDee Doke, who is the editor of Recruiter. Welcome to you today, DeeDee. How are you?
I'm great, Leisha. Delighted to be here. Thank you so much for asking me.
Well, you are very welcome, and I can't tell you how thrilled I've been about today. And to those who are watching rather than listening, we just have to have a caveat with the fact that Dee Dee's currently going through some home renovations. And for those who are eagle-eyed, if you can spot any, I don't know, fancy dress, attire, then you get extra points for noticing that. So I can't believe that anybody in our audience doesn't know who DeeDee Doke is. But for those who aren't yet familiar with you and Recruiter, please tell us a little bit about your career and what you do.
Okay. I am the editor, or the editrix, as I like to call myself, of Recruiter Magazine and recruiter.co.uk. And I also have the pleasure and privilege of editing a couple of other quarterly magazines that are not in recruitment, that are in very, very different fields. But Recruiter is my life.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll give you a little anecdote here. Sometimes you think maybe destiny shows you the direction from some point in your life. And when I was at university and doing radio, I had a guest one time who was a U.S. Air Force recruiter. And I thought, what on earth am I going to talk to this man about? Well, anyway, he came on and told me how much he loved being a recruiter. Well, that was a bit of destiny, obviously, for recruitment some years later on, and also because for a few years I was a defense correspondent for a U.S. newspaper. So two bits of that came at me very early on. And then one final signpost to recruitment came up when I was working on a British aerospace and airlines magazine. And I got the extra job of creating a recruitment newsletter for this title.
I
And
see.
I was hooked.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a kind of, we are a sector where you either love it or loathe it. And I think once you're in, all in. It's one of those. So I love the collision of fate for you. That's wonderful. And, the Recruiter magazine, obviously, you've been with the business for a very, very long time. And I think if I think about the publication, whether it's been online or as a magazine, I just, your name is synonymous with it. So you are truly intrinsic. And you're also, let's talk about the Recruiter Awards too. So, tell us about that.
Well, the Recruiter Awards, the awards itself, that's my favorite night of the year, or one of my favorite nights of the year. And the judging day is another one of my favorite days. I love the idea that, and the execution, that our awards are really about having these entries reviewed by several different think tanks of terrific people who know something a lot about recruitment and a lot about business and what standards ought to be, what excites them. Because we don't want to give awards for being, sadly, a good agency. We need lots and lots of good agencies, but we need to recognize the ones that stand out as going the extra 10 miles in what they do for their own employees, for their candidates, for their clients, for the industry. And I like to think that we have been instrumental over the years in recognizing a lot of rising stars, not
Definitely.
only as individuals, but as companies. And also being able to call attention to companies that might have been overlooked in a few things, say in the public eye.
Yeah.
But I love the opportunities that the awards give not only the winners and the shortlisted, but us as a magazine to find out who's doing great things.
Yeah, and I'd add to that as well, us as recruiters. And, I'm going to be contrary. I said this to you off camera that I've been exceptionally honoured to have been asked to be a judge for the last 2 years. And prior to that, it was a long time since I sort of had any involvement. I think the business I worked for 20 odd years ago was a participant in the Recruiter Awards in probably its early years. And there's always this kind of cynicism in recruitment circles about not just the Recruiter Awards, but generally industry awards, that you basically pay for your place and have, and I'm not saying I was necessarily in that cohort, but I think that there was an element of cynicism until I became a judge. And once I became a judge, I have to educate people, and you have to understand the amount of work the entrants go to submit their application to be considered for the shortlist alone. The day of judging itself is, without a shadow of a doubt, those have been my 2 favorite days over the last year, because you are truly humbled by what people, like you say, these aren't just best in class. These people are pioneers. They're ripping up trees, they're trailblazers, but they're doing it with compassion, with true pastoral care for their employees and their external customers. It's absolutely phenomenal what these people have done. And that's just what I've witnessed in the 2 days I've done the last 2 years. So I wanted to ask that question so that our audience can hear that please don't be cynical about industry awards, because actually there's a bloody lot of work that goes into it by the entrants. And you know what? These people deserve to be on the shortlist. And it's one of the most challenging things, actually choosing, and myself and my fellow judges, it was brilliant. We have a score system to help eliminate and choose the top people. And it's just a privilege. And for me, as an ambassador and an equally passionate recruiter, to you being the equally passionate editor of the magazine, I think we should all be slightly humbled by the people that we witness on these awards. I really do.
We are. And a couple of things I'd like to point out about the awards, Leisha. We haven't stuck with the same application form and same questions for, the last decade. We are constantly looking at how we can evolve what we are asking so that we can diversify the entry pool as much as possible. In fact, we're undergoing a revision right now of the entry forms and requirements for our Investing in Talent Awards, which are our second set of awards. And I'm hoping that, we've had fabulous entries before. I'm hoping that we can broaden that even further.
Great. It's brilliant.
And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, and this is I find this very interesting. We have some entrants who, and I imagine you have candidates like this too, they may fill in their nomination form and, they look pretty good, but perhaps when we're narrowing down the short list, they aren't at the top of the list. They aren't everyone's favorite. Oh, we've got to interview this individual. And then sometimes when they come in and do the interview, they blow the judges clear away.
Yep.
And I think that that's a lesson to the recruitment industry that, yes, it's great to see people on paper, but also if you think there might be something there, giving them that chance to bring that to life for you.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I felt that in both the sessions that I did. You think on paper, we assumed it would be this person, and then somebody else came along and we were just like, whoa, this person, there was the one last year, and you know who I'm talking about. He actually ended up being the winner. He had us all in tears. literally sobbing. So I think that, you know, you have the power. We're in a very powerful position anyway as recruiters to change people's lives. But actually, it's just, and let's hope that the award ceremony in September, Key Recruitment has got his table booked. We'll be there. Are we getting all glammed up? We don't know if we're getting glammed up, but I'm getting glammed up anyway. We will be there, and we will make sure that when we share this, there will be links for people if there are any places left to come along. But please get involved. Please don't think your company shouldn't be involved. It doesn't matter about the size of you. It's about your mindset, and it's about the achievements that you've created within your microcosm. That's the biggest thing, I would say, isn't it? It's not just about size.
Absolutely. And they help shine a light on people that we will be reporting on, and helps establish, I think, thought leaders. And I think that within the practitioner part of the recruitment industry, we need a lot of forward thinking, pioneering, as you said, people who are willing to stick their heads over the parapet with great practices and strategies.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Well, I can't wait to see what the future holds for that. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today is something that's for me, it was always the page turner. It was definitely what I would always go in straight, forget all the other articles. I'm going straight to this. It's your Hot 100 and Fast 50. So let's get excited about that. So what does it take to get there? And then typically those people that go on those lists, is there what happened to them afterwards? Like you have on Dragon's Den, the behind the scenes, have you got any sort of cases where people have really shone through?
I would say that they come a bit like the awards. Some companies who may not have been on our radar before are brought to our attention.
Yeah.
And I am so proud of the rankings. The Hot 100 has been in place since 2006. We have a very wonderful woman who does all of the analysis and narrative on it for us. That's Sue Dodd of Agile Intelligence.
Okay.
And initially, it was just a matter of her examining lots of financial records that came to her attention. But now, with the prestige of the Hot 100, companies contact her throughout the year and say, we want to be in it. And her advice is, send us your year-end financial results, and I'll throw them into the mix and see how they come out.
Good.
It's somewhat the same way with the Fast 50, which is currently done for us by Clearwater Corporate Finance. And again, they need to have the financials of companies to be able to work out who is, I should explain, the Hot 100 is about the highest NFI.
Okay.
Net fee income for UK recruitment companies. And the Fast 50 is for the fastest growth companies over a 3-year period.
Right. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
It can be difficult to get on there. With the the Hot 100, there's a lot of consistency with, once a financially efficient company, this often continues.
Yeah, of course.
Fast 50 is a little bit more inconsistent. You might say, because people might have a few great years. And then maybe not so.
Yeah, of course, especially if they've gone through big expansion plans. Thank you for clarifying that. And I think, I know I've met many companies over the years as a rec to rec. Obviously, I'm a service provider to the industry, and they definitely wear that accolade with absolute pride. You walk in their offices, they've got their plaque. I think it's a real indicator that this is, and you use the word that it's about consistency anyway, isn't it? To get to a relative, impressive NFI figure, these companies are hiring, training, and retaining consistent billers. That's what it's ultimately about,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and doing the same thing, you know, in terms of their marketing, their strategy, their growth, doing what they say they're going to do. So it's really interesting that. So, and I know that the other element we're going to talk about today about is 11 most influential in-house recruiters, because in-house recruitment is clearly a massive passion of yours. So tell us about that.
Well, we did not, for a long time, we did not have a league table for in-house. And we thought we needed to do one. And the teams are very important, but at the same time, who are the innovators in the in-house sector?
Yeah.
Who are who are the game changers in in-house recruitment? And I know people ask me, well, why 11? Why don't you have a normal 10 or a dozen or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, a couple of reasons, and I have to admit, a bit shallow, but I thought it sounded good. 11 in-house, you know, alliteration.
Alliteration, that's the right word, yes.
Yes. And then I also, I wanted it to stand out. I didn't want it to be another 10 this or whatever. So the alliteration and wanting something a little quirky. One other consideration too. I don't know how many times I've been involved in, for different things, you know, top 10 this. And it seems particularly with top 10s, there's that other person that you always want to get in.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, that's a way to accommodate that.
Yeah,
you know?
I like it. Makes you, the thing is, it's totally different. It's totally unique. Nobody else has a top 11. So I think it's remarkable. And I think that I applaud you, because I have placed and know a number of people who are absolutely, you know, striving for, you know, very, very sort of, you know, for me, best practice strategies in-house. And I think it's remarkable that, you know, nobody's ever really made them stand out before. So I think it's brilliant that you're championing those people too. And we can learn a lot from those people from agency perspective as well, can't we?
Yes, and also many of them have been agency recruiters.
Of course. Yeah.
And although the vision of a client might change, I think that many of the practices, they have to be something of the same. You know, if you're an in-house person and you have to work with an internal hiring manager, you still have to sell them on, of
course you do,
working with you and doing different things. So I'm glad to see that there is not the animosity between agencies and in-house that I think there was a few years ago. I think that's kind of,
there was a disparity, and I would say that there was this kind of snobbery, and I'm saying that as a rec to rec. Certainly as we came out of the financial crisis of 2009, I think there was a real snobbery that people saw, you know, if their colleagues or whoever used to go and work in-house, oh, well, you know, they're a failed recruiter. And I never subscribed to that, ever. Because I used to say, well, you've still got stakeholders to manage, but actually you're even more accountable when you're in-house, because you've got them sat there next to you, as opposed to you just don't take the client call if you don't want to speak to them. So I've never subscribed to that. And I think that I genuinely do think it is down to the acknowledgement from people like yourself and publications like The Recruiter, and also the work of events like True. I don't know if you know the True events.
yes.
Yeah, I've been involved in that for many years. I'm usually one of the sort of speakers. I say speakers, you know, it's not really speakers, but it's I'm involved on running a track, and a shout out to Martin Dangerfield, who took the mantle for the North on that. And you know, it's a real blend of in-house and agency side recruiters, and we all have the same challenges. It's all about EVP, it's all about talent attraction, it's all about retention, it's all about training, all that. So actually it's just about you seeing it from a different side of the coin. So I think it's wonderful. We're all recruiters, and all of us are here to attract, retain and train the best talent, and it's as simple as that.
Yes.
Isn't
yes.
So thank you. And I applaud you for all the work that you do. And DeeDee, I hope that we get to see each other in September.
We have
We're gonna
to,
have a
Alicia.
dance on the dance floor if we're allowed. 2 meters apart. Handbags on the floor. It'll be wonderful. Listen, on behalf of the recruitment industry, thank you for everything that the publication has done and does, and for the awards as well, for championing all the people that are nominated. So thank you so much for joining us today, DeeDee.
Thank you, Alicia. I've loved it.
I've loved it too. Thank you so much.